Well, hi guys, welcome back to Linda's Pantry. So today I'm going to talk with you about preparedness. I've been invited to this collab, 30 Days of Preparedness by Michelle over at Big Valley Living. Her and her husband have invited several of us to participate in this video or in this collaboration, and I was super excited and going over what the things that I feel like I'm prepared for and what I'm not has really been an eye-opener. So I do believe that I've got some good things going, but I want to tell you a little bit about the collaboration before I get too far into this. So there's going to be 3 drawings for prizes, and that will be just from a random comment picker. So you'll want, and Michelle's going to have a live at the end of the month, you'll want to leave a valuable comment to add to the conversation on all of the videos, and I will have a list of everybody's links so you can go back and watch them if you haven't seen them already. Go ahead and subscribe to their channels because they're all fabulous channels and have some really, really good ideas about prepping and being prepared. And it doesn't, we're not preparing for doomsday or it could be a financial setback. It could be a job loss. It could be earthquakes. We've been getting warnings of seismic activity here in my area, and earthquakes, volcanoes. There's lots of active volcanoes around here, and you do need to be prepared because you may be stuck for a few days, and you may be without power or water. And what are you going to do? So I was going over in my mind, and the last video I did for you, I canned some stuff, and I was getting ready to can whole tomatoes, which I will bring you that video. It'll come up next. I picked a glut of tomatoes, and I have been sun-drying them, or dehydrating tomatoes and making sun-dried tomatoes and storing dehydrated tomatoes, because part of my preparedness is having a pantry that's fully stocked so I don't have to worry about going to the store. I can safely say that we could feed ourselves for probably 2 years off of what I have in the pantry, in the freezers, and with the freeze-dried food that I have from Thrive. And that link's also down below. If you guys are interested at all, I've got my Thrive website, and it is full of single ingredient foods. So you're going to make a meal out of it, just like you would when you go buy ingredients for a recipe. You're using whole ingredients and you create your recipe. So that brings me to the skill sets and equipment. These are things that I had to really go over in my mind. Do I have everything? Do I know how to do the things that I might need to know how to do? So if you are not a canner yet, I highly recommend getting a canning book and having your resources, a hard copy of resources is super important as well. So having a hard copy of some canning books, so if you need to start preserving your own food, you can teach yourself. And while you have the time, if you have the time to learn how to do it, start simple, maybe start with some jams and go forward from there. But if you're a water bath canner and you haven't done any pressure canning, now would be the time to do it before there's a potential disaster that you can't figure out how to do it and you have no one to ask. So that's number 1. Number 2 is water. How are you gonna attack the water? And I really felt like that's where I am lacking the most, because they say a gallon of water per person for drinking, bathing, and cooking. So that's literally, that's pretty easy to go through. So per day, that's a lot of water. So because I live in an area that's surrounded by water, I need to add a Berkey water filter to my tools that I have, because you need the equipment to prep for those incidences, but you need to know how to use them, right? So I do feel like that's where I'm lacking. I have plenty of ways to cook without electricity. I have the canning skills I need. I have gardening skills. I'm out here in the garden right now, and those are massive tomato plants. There's only 4 tomato plants in that bed, and they are weighted down with them. I picked and picked and picked last night till my hands were green. So right now the tomatoes are what we're putting back, and I don't want to waste one of them. And any green ones, if we get a threat of a frost, I will ferment those green ones, and they make wonderful pickled tomatoes. So none of them are going to go to waste. I've got a little buddy down here helping me. I feel like if you're not a gardener now, there's time to act on that and get your seeds now, so you're ready to start seeds come springtime. So these seeds are viable for years, and especially if you're collecting your own seeds. I do have a couple tomato plants back on my asparagus bed. Those are a geranium kiss that I want to collect seeds. And I've watched several videos. I've tested out whether I could do it or not. And yes, I can. So saving seeds is huge. I saved bean seeds from last year and used them this year, and they were very prolific. I put green beans up. We ate them fresh. We've got enough green beans to last us the year. And that's really my goal. Sometimes I go past that year because it's too good of a deal to pass up. So, pantry preparedness also extends to household preparedness. So household preparedness, how if I didn't have water to spare, how am I going to wash clothes? Well, I have one of those hand crank wonder washers, and you don't need electricity. You can't do big items very easy, but you can use your washing machine fill it with water, and you can use it. You would just need a plunging kind of mechanism to wash bigger items. And then of course you'd have to hand wring them. You could invest with a wringer and all that if you saw the need to. A lot of people that live off grid have those. I would love to have one. But for now, at least I know I can wash, the essentials, undergarments, all that, and keep things sanitary using very little water. It's using very little water, and it really does work well. So that's a thing to think about. The other thing to think about, I feel like I need all the equipment. I've got the outdoor cooking stuff lined up. I can I have the food saver. So I have the food saver, but WeVac just sent me a new one, and it's a chamber vac. So I have that available to me, so I can keep things in the freezer for years to come. Because truly, meat, like when we picked up our beef, they said, as long as these packages don't get damaged, this meat, and it's vacuum sealed, is good for 5 years. So will it last that long? No, we're going to go through, we rotate through everything and eat it. But having a vacuum sealer, I think, even if it's a handheld thing, I think that would be a really good addition to anybody's arsenal, and the skill set to use it, and what would you use it for, because they can be used for many other things as well, not just food. So skill sets, having your hard copies of canning books, of gardening books, of how to build things, how to maintain, how to maintain a flock of chickens or ducks or whatever you want to raise. These kind of things are important to know. What can they eat? And if you've got pets, like we have 2 dogs, I definitely think ahead for them. I've started making their own dog, or all their dog food. They still eat a little bit of kibble, but I know that if I could not get kibble anymore, they're going to be just fine, because the majority of what they eat, 2/3 of what they eat every day, is homemade dog food that I cook for them. I incorporate the Thrive. I always put Thrive green beans, carrots, and peas in there. I know that in case of an emergency, I have canned chicken. I will have canned turkey. I'm about ready to thaw out 2 big turkeys, and bone them out. I just boned out 2 smaller ones for them, and I cooked the meat up and put it in freezer containers. And then, like last night, I cooked their dog food for the week. I pulled that turkey out the night before and let it thaw in the broth, and I added a cup of rice. I added the carrots, peas, and green beans, a can of pumpkin, and the meat in the broth. And seasoning is pretty simple. It's just rosemary and thyme, because they're both very good for dogs. The rosemary acts as a flea repellent, which is fantastic, because up here we do get fleas once in a while. Thankfully, I've never had them with my 2 little guys. Or even when I had Shotzi, she never came home with fleas or got fleas. So being prepared for your animals, having, if you vaccinate, having your vaccines and a natural way to worm them, if that needs to happen, you really do need to think about how are we going to take care of them. So their water needs to be, they go through a gallon of water between them, just drinking water per day. So they need a gallon of water too. And that's another reason why I believe I've got a flaw in mine. I need a Berkey water filter, so we can keep up on that. We are going to set up at our new place. We are going to set up water catchment, because I live in the Northwest, and so water catchment, it just makes sense to have water, and because I really feel like that's the only hole I have. If you need guns and ammo and all that, that's up to you. I feel like people will come together if there is a disaster. Man, there's a lot of unrest right now, and we could head for even more civil unrest in the upcoming days because of what's going on with the election, and it's just a mess. But the other thing, if you are a gardener, you should be honing your skills of making your own compost, even if it's on a small scale. So I did a test of putting a in-ground composting bucket and putting food scraps from the table, some cardboard, some, so you want the brown as well as the green. And I'm not kidding. That is the richest, prettiest compost, and it is loaded with worms. That whole bed is now a fertile ground, and it didn't cost me anything. It's all stuff that would have been wasted. So that's been a really good skill set to learn. And I plan on having a big compost pile, but I will have in all my raised beds in-ground compost bins. So now the next time that bin needs to be fed, I'm going to dump all the compost out and start over. And I literally started from just garden scraps and some wood shavings, some dry leaves, and cardboard. And the cardboard really brings the worms up. So I think that as far as honing your skills as a gardener, honing your skills as a home, as far as home food preservation, if you don't have a dehydrator, you can always dehydrate in your oven. You can dehydrate outside, given you live in a dry enough area. I tried the sun-dried tomatoes outside when we had a really hot week, and it still got too much humidity up here. So mine go in the dehydrator now. And so knowing how to use that, use it properly, knowing how to actually just really and truly take your food stores to the next level, and not putting all your eggs in one basket. So I don't have all my eggs in the freezer. And if I did lose electricity, I have a way to can a lot. And it would be a 24 hours, I would start canning, and I would get most of it put in jars. And that's the other thing. Make sure that you've got enough jars, you've got enough lids and rings to get through however many processes you need to do in case you did have to empty your freezer or try to empty it. And same with your garden. When the frost hits, you're bringing the stuff in, you got to get it processed as quickly as possible. So if you don't have freezer space, then the alternative is to dehydrate. If you have a freeze dry it. If you have a canner, let's can it and get that stuff. Don't waste it. Don't give it away. Unless that's your whole goal of gardening. But right now, I think that it's really important that we do save as much as we can. Like, I had no plans to can green beans. I still had green beans from last year. I canned them. I'm not going to waste them. And I'll be thankful that I have them. So the other thing I wanted to touch base with you guys is heat and electricity. Are you set with heat and electricity? We are lucky enough to have a wood stove here and at our other house. And wood heat, to me, especially up here in the Northwest, it's not that the wood's free. It's certainly not, but it's totally accessible. And we have a stockpile of wood for at least 2 years in advance. So I highly encourage that, especially right now, we're still mild weather. It's just the first day of fall. It's time to get your wood stocked up. If you have, even if it's just to have a little bit of wood, because a lot of people have little backyard fire pits. Even if it's just to have a little bit of wood to be able to cook on your outdoor fire pit, because you can take a Dutch oven out there and cook outside. You could roast hot dogs, anything. And I encourage you, as far as store-bought canned stuff, they definitely need to be rotated more often than home canned, I believe. Some stuff not, but I say, you should have canned meats, not just stuff that you've canned, but also that you buy, like Spam and potted meat if you like it, deviled ham, Vienna sausages. All those things could be really come in handy. And I'm also want to touch on the skills you need to do a lot of this stuff from scratch. So you can make Spam from scratch. You can make Velveeta cheese from scratch. I've done both of them. Oh, I've got somebody he's photobombing me. Video bomb. That's Bob. Learn how to make a lot of your, let's say, your Bisquick mix. They've got books out there to do it yourself. All the mixes you might need, how to make your own cheese sauce for macaroni and cheese. I buy my cheese powder from Thrive and cheese shreds. They're freeze-dried. And so I know that I can make macaroni and cheese, and I know how to make pasta. So I can do pasta. And especially if you've got chickens, you've got flour stored, or wheat berries, you can make homemade pasta, and you're not dependent on anybody. So I really feel like this is important. And if your barbecue takes briquettes, stock up on the briquettes. Stock up. I've got a Traeger. I probably got 10 bags of pellets stocked up at all times. I've got barbecue briquettes, but I've also got hard lump charcoal for the green egg, and the gas barbecue. If we ran out of propane, then we'd go to the other two, and probably keep the propane as a little more of a prize commodity. So I hope it inspires you to look at where you might have a hole in your plan of being prepared. I also think that everybody should have a good medical supply and know how to use it. Absolutely know how to dress a wound, know how to stitch somebody up if you needed to, or an animal. I'm thankful that I had horses, and I was a horse trainer for 12 years. So I got to be involved with a lot of veterinary stuff, and I had to stitch up dogs, and I couldn't call a vet out every time somebody got hurt. And I had to stitch up a horse, and on the fly, but I know how to do it because I learned from my vet, and I would be comfortable with it. So have those supplies on hand, medical supplies, any medicine you need. you should be stocking that up as well, or finding a natural alternative that you could do instead. So as far as pet food goes, I'm leaning towards all fresh for mine. But let's say you're stockpiling dog food, you do need to be careful, because dog kibble is, it'll go rancid on you in a year or two, and then you've got stuff you can't feed to your dog. It's not healthy for them anyways. The kibble industry is really, I feel like that's why our dogs aren't living as long. And I'm going to get off on a tangent here if I'm not careful. So that being said, I hope that this inspires you to look at your picture of what you're prepared for, and you feel confident you've got it. I feel confident my food storage is shipshape. I always want to add to it, always, especially this time of year. And as the holiday sales come upon us, I'm going to be storing turkey. I'm going to be, anytime I can get meat on sale. I just bought chickens on sale for 99 cents a pound for whole chicken. I will be throwing chicken in jars. I can cut that up, bone and all, and can that pretty quickly in quart jars and have chicken on the shelf for any time I need it. It's got that quality bone broth that's created inside the jar, and it's a go-to meal of protein, and I can create whatever I need to. If I have to make some homemade pasta, to throw a pasta dish together with some chicken, or some homemade noodles for chicken noodle soup, there's nothing better. All right. I do hope it inspires you. Please leave a comment and let me know where do you feel like you're lacking the most, because I always struggle with, I don't think there's enough. I don't think we're prepared enough. And I think this year is really opening everyone's eyes. Ever since COVID, I think our eyes are opening to the fact that we need to pay attention, because we could be headed for some really serious stuff, and prices are ridiculous. It's just unreal how expensive everything is getting, and we aren't making that much more money, if any, right? So let me know what you think. Go watch everybody else's videos. They all have really good input, and I believe that we are going to be okay, and we can stick together and keep this conversation going. And I look forward to all of the rest of the videos, and they've all been wonderful. So thank you again, Michelle, for inviting me to this collaboration. It's been wonderful. And the prizes, let me just tell you. So first place is a chamber vac by Avid Armor, and Michelle has this exact chamber vac. They have donated a starter pack with it, and so you could get started on your preparedness for sure, and having the correct equipment to prep your pantry and keep everything shipshape. Second is Michelle and her husband are giving away a $100 Amazon gift card. And I believe it's an Amazon card. It's a $100 gift card. And then last but not least, Leisa is giving away a signed copy of her 30 Days to Preparedness book. I believe that's what it's called. And I'm sorry if I botched that. But that she's giving a signed copy of that. So there's a way to get started right there too. And what a great collaboration. So I can't wait to see you all in the next collaboration and the next video. And I will be prepping, because I will be prepping tomatoes to go in the pantry. I'm canning a glut. Let me take you inside and show you what I picked last night. I will be canning a glut of Romas tomorrow, and I can't wait to share it with you. It'll get my tomatoes right back in order, because it's down to almost nothing. All right, bye. All right, so here's the tomatoes that I picked yesterday and the day before. There were some in here already. So these are the ones that are ready to can, and these will be the next load going into the sun-dried tomato edition. And what I'm doing with them now just so I'm prepared ahead to have sun-dried tomatoes, only because this is how I do it. So I've got a couple of jars that already have the olive oil and the spices, but these are just sun-dried tomatoes that came out of the dehydrator. I have them vacuum sealed. They will sit until I'm in need of sun-dried tomatoes, and then I'm not wasting olive oil. Those fats are really important to keep on your shelf, so have a variety of them to cook with. Anyways, and then I can take these out, do the vinegar and hot water, and then move forward with sun-dried tomatoes. All right, guys. I will see you in the next video. Thank you to Michelle and Lisa and everyone that's involved in this collaboration for making it so wonderful.